How are you guys doing? Can you guys confirm that you can hear me? Yes, good, and you? I am doing great. Yeah, I might have just forgotten to unmute my microphone. Now, this is something that happens. I do apologize. But yeah, you guys know me. I'm a little wonky with these things. And yeah, I mean, Julius, a lot of people have asked me to drop my playlist before, and I've tried. And truth is, I just like songs. So on Spotify, you just like songs, and then you can just download all your like songs. So I would need to spend like an hour or two and actually put them all in a playlist. And you know what? I'll do this at some point, but I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not a priority. I'm sorry. But it is what it is. You guys can follow me on Spotify. I'll get you a personal assistant to do this. Yeah, if I could trust someone. Definitely. Definitely someday. But guys, can we talk about today? Like, I don't know if you guys were in the midweek analysis yesterday, but another one. Another one with perfect 100% accuracy analysis. I think we're either 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4 right now. So this is pretty awesome. Yes, as you said, Perez, my level from yesterday hit perfect. I love it. I love it. It can't be better than this, right? And it's not always this textbook. It's not always this beautiful. But let's be honest, I didn't even change my settings from yesterday in my drawings, and just beautiful. Okay, you guys calling out the little French expressions there. Next objective is pretty clear. Yeah, no, definitely. I do think we're going to go higher now. Look, going into tomorrow, I'm going to do the same plan, and it's going to depend on power of 3 because I don't like how we closed today. I would have liked a more aggressive close lower, and then we could leave the upside for tomorrow. That didn't happen, but still. Current high of week looks good, right? We took out the level we were talking about. Let's go to the other side now. But we'll review today, right? For those of you that had a harder time today, don't take this bad, right? When I have my worst days, I see people having their best days, all right? We can't always align all together. But if you were trading the Rise model today, it was a very beautiful day. We'll talk about a lot of intricacies that were showcased today, which we'll review together as always. But definitely a lot of context. How do you say that? I'm forgetting the word, but there's going to be a lot of substance today. A lot of stuff to talk about. But yes, I can now finally remove the drawings now that I've showcased to you guys clearly that we were right on that end. And just to go back over our range, I was looking for a retracement into this fair value gap. Ollie, why did you not expect it to retrace to the order block? Because it did not need to. Clearly very bullish. How do I establish that? By how aggressively we closed through this level, which was our objective, these relative equal highs from last week. All right, so very bullish, so we don't have to retrace all the way down. I did want to see some SMT form, right? We did discuss about having ES form this sort of SMT. It did not, but we still had SMT on our lower time frame, so we still had a high probability setup, if we can say so like that. So very clearly looking to short until this fair value gap and then looking to long out of it. Personally today, I only took one short, and even though you guys probably saw me in general today talking about the short that we saw in the open, right, and I was very clear with what I was looking for, I did not trade that, and we'll also speak on this. But first of all, we'll go to the 15-minute. See a very nice power of 3 today. Now, you might not understand it. Looking at this, you're like, oh, look, it just consolidated and then we went down. No, right? Because we know one thing. Anytime I frame a trade, whether it's on a daily chart or all the way down to the 1-minute chart, I'm always looking for time-based manipulation, right? And it's a very pretty word to say. I want to see a level taken out during a specific time period or at a specific event, and then see SMT to confirm it. And today, we had some very nice movement lower initially, right? With the swing point formed right at the open, right? So it's important to me that at the open, we opened and formed a swing point. This is extremely high probability. And when we do this, if I see either the London session or the start of the New York session, and when I say this, I do mean the opening range, which for me is the first hour of trading of the session, I want to see it run offside. So we see upside here. My draw is lower. So any move, and I will remove this previous objective, any move higher in this case would be what I would consider as offside. Let me actually remove this. I was showcasing some stuff to some students. But if we look at this, we had very beautiful upside movement right at the open of 930. And if we look a little closer, that formed SMT with London High. So let me just mark it out as such. We had very beautiful SMT right at the open. Now, whichever swing point you prefer to choose, as I always say, it's not important where you mark the SMT. It's important that there is divergence, right? And there started being divergence right at 9:15 candle, right? We're on a actually the 9 o'clock candle, but we're on a 15-minute chart here, right? And anyways, you guys know I'm never trading before 8:30, before 9:30, and we had 8:30 news, which is right here. This initiated the Judas swing, your fake move, your manipulation, however you want to call it, and then we had SMT confirming at the highs. Now, it's also important to point out, even though we'd like to just not look at it now that we're viewing charts with hindsight, that there was also SMT at the lows, right? So if we just mark it out like this, I'll mark it out roughly, right? Because I never like to do it with precision, even when I'm on my charts anyways. We also had SMT at the bottom. What does this tell you? Price is consolidating. That's the truth. So yes, I have a manipulation lower, and yes, I have a manipulation higher. How do I know which one I trust? Well, first of all, my students know whenever there's SMT on both sides of the range, we have one phrase that is our one and only rule. You wait for a raid. So you're waiting for liquidity to be taken out. So it's kind of like you disregard that SMT until a raid happens. So right here, you had your raid. So you first had SMT, then you had a second SMT, but you can trust it since you had a raid of this consolidation. That's one thing. What's an easy way to go about it? Even easier than this. Okay, well, which one is better? One happened at random times. One happened right at the start of my New York session when I anticipate a Judas swing. And if we go down the time frames to my 1 minute chart, right here, you can see the open. And you know what? I'll even add a vertical line so it's easier for you if I can double click on my indicator, which is getting a huge update, by the way. Well, for me, it's huge, but it's nothing crazy, but it will be way more efficient now. So definitely something I'm excited about. And if we look right here, right on the open, we opened, traded higher. That is your Judas swing. You're also confirmed by shorter term SMT. Let me just find it. So it's kind of weird because pretty much you had your same Judas swing at 929 on ES, but 932, sorry, and 931 were lower. So it's hard to see on a 1 minute chart, right? That candle to candle SMT. Of course, if we go down our time frames at the same area, we'll see some swing points that determine that SMT, right? We now have swing points to associate it with. That's not the most important thing to notice since you already had a higher time frame SMT, right? So do you need to look for recent SMT? No, but there was some here if ever someone did not spot, for example, this higher time frame objective. As I said, I was looking for shorts. So am I going to consider any longs? No. Did we even have a bullish breaker? This seems like a lower time frame bullish breaker. And then no. We perhaps had a lower time frame one right here. Depending on when this candle happened, pretty much if it swept the low of this range before taking out the high, but that's not even the swing point. So as I said, pretty much a lower time frame breaker, but we did have a bearish breaker. Now, if you look at NASDAQ here, it's a little hard to notice. It's a little hard to spot, and you might not even see it at all. But if you look at ES, it's a very clear breaker block because we put up equal levels. Well, I say very clear because I've mentioned multiple times before that when ES forms an equal level, I treat it as if it had taken it out, all right? So in this case, I would regard this as a bearish breaker on ES. If not, there's an even simpler one. You just have a very clear breaker block right here. And I will mark it out with standard deviation so it's easier for you guys to spot. As you can see here, you took out this high and then you took out this low. This forms a breaker block. You had a unicorn right here, but I would have waited until 9:30 and then beautiful fair value gap, right? On ES, it was textbook. There's nothing else you need to see. It's a beautiful unicorn, very tight stop loss, giving you ample return. But I always tell you guys, I want to be trading NASDAQ. And even though recently with NASDAQ price action, I have been considering ES a lot more, I did not take this short because Nasdaq did not present me with a clear opportunity due to the fact that it retraced so far above here. So while ES was frolicking here, that's a nice word, Nasdaq was invalidating this gap. So we traded far into this gap before invalidating it right here. So that for me was not the sign of a clear distribution lower, even though in my opinion it was going lower. I had my target lower. I mean, I shared it in chat. It does not mean that that is a move that I am looking to trade. And in case you guys spotted it, there is a bearish breaker here with just no opportunity to enter, since we had this big candle at 944 that would have just alleviated that. Now, can we go look for 1 minute inverse fair value gap here? Yes. Are there entries based off of this 1 minute inversion fair value gap? Yes. Am I gonna tell you guys to do that? No, because that's not pessimistic, right? But if you look right here, closed under, traded back into it, there are plenty of opportunities there. But it's far. And it's pessimistic to believe that, hey, I would have looked all the way back here. I know that for myself this morning I did. Okay, so I can tell you guys that. But is it realistic for me to expect all of my students and all the people following here trading my model that they can see this? No. Was also very close to taking Asian high. Yes, 100%. Looking at this high, right? So yes, this was also inducement, but since there's SMT, I disregard that totally. There's one IFVG on the left now. Yeah, so right here, as I showcased. Do you mean these, Justin, or do you mean earlier? Right here. Can you see it better now? Yes, sir. 858. Okay, you want me to go look? I'll go look at 858. So you had that bearish breaker, which we just discussed, and you had this inversion fair value gap here. Yep, definitely something to consider, to be honest. But at that point, I'm just too far from the breaker for me to call this a unicorn. So is this a good array to come for a trade? Definitely, right? And these green lines, by the way, are my inversion fair value gap. But the breaker I am considering in this case, well, I mean, you could consider this, but this is not a breaker block. And if you were about to tell me the 927 breaker block, I'm going to show you. What did we do? We formed a range, then we went back up, then we went down, then we went up. It would be more with a more recent breaker. And I mean, at this point, it's no longer an inversion fair value gap because you closed to the other side of it. And the only breaker I could use in this place that is valid is this one. And this is way too far for me to consider that a unicorn. Now, could you use this breaker block? Well, the movement already happened here. I think I've talked about it quite a bit, that I don't like using breaker blocks after this move, because that to me is not a breaker block. A breaker block has to form at the extremity. So at this point, I already missed out on a big part of the move. So that isn't one for me. 921 breaker, where is that? 921. I don't see a breaker block there. If you're talking about this whole range, as I just explained, the movement from this range is we formed a high, we formed a low, then we traded above, but we first went lower, invalidating this range before going higher. So there is no breaker block there. It's a little hard to see with hindsight. When it's live, it's very easy to see it form and then see this candle open, went lower, broke this first, and this is no longer a range I can use for a breaker block because it's already mitigated on the other side, right? I need to see manipulation first, like we saw here. High, low, high, broke the low. So look, can I justify some sort of way to take a short? Yes, here. This first one is the closest one. And even in this case, I am pushing it because it is far from my original breaker and there's nothing else. There's a lower time frame breaker here, but even then it's far. So any sort of short setup in this case would not have provided me with a great setup. That's the truth. So what do you do in this case? Yeah, as you just said, Justin, you were waiting for the macro. I personally don't use macros really as intended, I guess, as they are meant to. But after that, I see the move happen without me. I'm fine with it. I'm still looking for opportunity, though. I personally did not take this short, but I was still looking for something. Now, after I saw us trade into it, and as I said, I anticipated that we were going to trade to the midpoint, and that's the level I wanted to see us react off of. Well, when I saw this morning, I was like, oh shit, let's go. Still didn't trade that. Why? Because I don't see a unicorn. Now, some of you might say, well, look at this. You have a bullish breaker block right here, and you have this. But what do I always tell you guys? I'm not looking to engage after the move. I want to be part of this whole move. So for me, when I'm here, I'm too late. And for one very specific reason, and we'll look at it. What's our most recent expansion range? This, right? This is my most recent expansion range. How do I find my retracement objective? Well, I go to the 15-minute chart and I look for premium and efficiency. In this case, it's too far and it's not even a 15-minute range. So I'm going to go down to the 5-minute to get a clearer idea. 5-minute, I have one here. This one, once again, it's very deep, right? There's nothing wrong with this one. You could frame this as your retracement objective. And if you see, that's actually where we ended the day. So that's my first premium and efficiency. I personally went even deeper and wanted to look at the 1-minute. And my first inefficiency and premium of this range is this one.
Yeah.
This gives me insight. If we start respecting this, I don't anticipate price to go to this other fair value gap. Let's mark it out for what it is here. The 5-minute fair value gap. I don't anticipate us to go and reach that 5-minute fair value gap if we respect this one. And once again, this is how I personally utilize premium and discount. I use it to find arrays that are of importance. This array is of importance. If it's respected, price will dive lower. If it's not respected, price will dive higher. So even if you would have entered on this trade, which as I said, I personally did not take because this is too far for me. The move has already happened and I don't want to be chasing a move. And let's actually look at a 3PD array stop loss. So you have this one, and you actually have an inversion fair value gap there. So this fair value gap, this tiny little guy, is your last PD array. So you put it at the low of that candle. Now you have, for example, this would be your partial. Mechanically speaking, this is your partial. Or here, let's actually use the 5-minute one, which is the more, well, the furthest one in this case, but just the one you should actually use, right? If you watch the video, standard deviations align beautifully, actually. That's textbook, right? End of the range, first premium and efficiency. If you traded this, first of all, when I see this and I see price bounce back, I'm never trading this. But even if you traded this, you should have realized that price is consolidated and closed your trade. When I'm offside, that's what I do. I told you guys in the weekly outlook, I wanted to see us go lower the full day for Thursday. And I wanted to see us go higher going into tomorrow. Now, we consolidated pretty much to a close, returned almost to our opening of the New York session. And that to me just tells me that tomorrow I'm probably going to want to see, sorry about that, guys. I'm probably going to want to see a run lower before we do anything else. But enough talking about tomorrow. For today specifically, if you took this trade, this was a loss. There's nothing I could tell you. I personally, after seeing this bounce, was looking for long opportunities as a retracement. I was anticipating more downside movement. And you see, today I was wrong. But it still allowed me to catch another short continuation opportunity. So of course, if you were looking for longs, you took this setup, which as I said, just too late for me, you would have lost. I like for us to consider these nonetheless. I think it's important to see a model for what it actually is. Not, hey, here's how I personally traded it. No, following my rules, this is a setup. Now it's what I would call an A- setup, and that's not a trade I trade. I go with the school grades. I do A+, and then underneath there's A-, right? So A- I don't trade. I trade A and A+, which means perfect and just missing one thing. If we want to simplify it to the bare bones of it, that's how it is. And if we look in this specific case, I was missing a lot of things. So first, there's no recent SMT at this point, and it's probably easier if I just plot my crosshair. Now right here, there's no SMT. Second of all, we already have done a big part of this move. That's two things wrong, making it worse. I hope you guys understand the logic. A third thing wrong, it already reached what would have been my partial objective for a target long and respecting it. That's 4 things wrong. So definitely not a setup I want to take. But if we look at it at the bare bones entry model, yes, this is a unicorn entry. Now, enough rambling about this. I'd like to show you guys this to stay transparent with you guys and to tell you, well, perhaps you took this trade. Was it a unicorn? Yes. Here is why you should have skipped it. But now, I personally took this short. I was looking at this breaker block forming. I was seeing how we were respecting this inefficiency. And yeah, I mean, I don't have to go deeper than this. I was trading continuation, right? So I'm waiting for the respect of an inefficiency, and then I can trade a unicorn. So my first premium inefficiency showed that it wanted to support price. How do I know this? Candles are trading into it. They're respecting the midpoint. It's just a good level to look at the respect or disrespect of it. And we are barely getting candle closes into it. Once again, respecting the midpoint. So for me, that's just a clear sign that we have a lower target. What's our lower target? Well, we'll first look at the entry and then we can look at the lower target. So very in your face breaker block. There is even one beforehand right here. All right, so we're going to view this one because I always tell my students, look at the most recent one. I mean, there's no choice, right? It's the first one to form. That's what you're looking for. And this one formed as soon as price traded under here. And just before we dive into this, I did want to showcase that there is no SMT on the highs here, right? So it's not a perfect setup. There was SMT at the morning open. Okay, that's far away. There's no SMT at this current place, which doesn't make it a perfect setup, but everything else was present, which means it was not an A+ setup, but an A setup. And as I told you guys, I do trade those. I just wanted to show a case in point of it. This breaker block was formed when we traded below this, and this one when we traded below this. Truth is, you didn't have an entry before anyways. So no matter which breaker block you use, you would have used the same exact fair value gap to enter on your trade. And here, let's bring back some blue here, which is your first overlapping PD array of that breaker block. So no matter which breaker, if you use this one, which is what I usually like to refer to as the small one and the big one, because these usually form together when we have a continuation framework, you would have had the same exact entry. So you have an entry right here. 3 PD array tells you fair value gap, order block, very tight stop loss right here. And as you guys can see, clearly nice delivery there. But now where would you target? Well, as always, we're going to refer to the opposite range, which means the range I'm looking to reverse, right? In this case, I'm going to use my premium and discount. I'm going to go to the 5-minute chart. I'm going to look at the first discount and efficiency. Oh, there's none, right? This one, this order block, first of all, I would use this level since it's overlapping with a fair value gap, is not in discount. So I have to go down a time frame. I don't use those 4, 3, 2, 1s. You can use them. I actually haven't tested them at all. I just like to go straight down to the 1 minute in this case. And as you can see, right here, you have your first discount and efficiency. Now, I also had a very beautiful objective here with 4 standard deviations at the opening price of the 10 a.m. candle, right, which we are reversing. And as I always like to say, this is a mitigation level that I look to be taken at all times. But let's use the pessimistic objective. I personally took one off here, one off here, one off at this specific low. And if we look actually at the standard deviations of the larger breaker, it had a very beautiful reversal in that 2 to 2.5. So you would have reached that 2 standard deviations. I personally prefer to frame trades into such a way that I would say, for example, here, we swept this level into the reversal zone and then reverse. Well, then I want to take profit here. I'm not going to try and chase the absolute low. I'm going to use my level because we don't have to sweep all the way down to that level. We can just go all the way down here. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I still had a runner on and I was looking for more. I was looking for this low and I was looking for us to really dig into this gap, perhaps even reach 4 standard deviations of my breaker range, which we did not. I got stopped out right here. I had a tiny bit of a lower entry, pretty much just a later entry, and I got stopped out break even here. Just so you guys know for transparency. So I took a partial here, placed my trade break even, took another partial at this level, and then got stopped out break even, which for me was still a beautiful return to a trade. As you can see, your partial offers 2.07 R. That's legit perfect for 50% take profit. If you're like me, in this case, I had 3 contracts. So it was 1, 1, and then 1 in break even. Beautiful trade in this case. I would have liked to take profit at this extra level, but I was not willing to let go of my trade. Now, looking back, of course, I should have taken profit at all there instead of getting broken even, but I wanted to give more room for downside. Very beautiful trade in my book. Of course, is it the one you wanted for that day? Is it the huge movement from the morning? No. And to be honest with you guys, I never care for that stuff. I am results oriented, which a lot of people tell you is bad for you when you go to trading. For me, it has never been bad. My results, I don't blame them on others. I always take credit for my wrongs and my rights. So whatever I do, I'm always going to back myself in this case. And when I have a good result, I am happy. When I have a bad result, I'm mad. That's just how it is. As a trader, I don't believe you have to remove these wants and needs. I think you have to control your reaction to it, which is something I talk about quite often. So in this case today, very happy with this trade. Not mad at all that I lost this, that I couldn't trade this first one or the second one. Very happy I was here. And now I know a lot of people are going to talk to me about 1050 to 1110 and how you could have entered here and just held on for the rest of the day. We're going to talk about it. But for me, after seeing a whole move down, a small retracement, and then finally getting my piece, I was done. Now, of course, if you were looking for longs, you would have gotten one stop loss here, but then you would have gotten a long opportunity. See, that's what I love so much about this model. And of course, I made it, and I'm an arrogant motherfucker, so I'm going to enjoy it for sure. But I like that the fact that the important part is for you to have a bias. And I'm not going to start another rant like the other days, right? I see a lot of familiar faces, some new ones as well, and some returning ones. But you don't need to be right with your bias. You just need to have a bias. If I was looking for shorts and only taking unicorn entries, I would have taken this one. And worst case, I would have taken a bad trade that worked. Now, this is still a bad trade for me if you shorted off the inversion fair value gap we were talking, but it still led to a win, right? So that's win plus win. Okay, what if you went long? Well, you have a loss here. Okay, but then you have a win. Breaker block forms. When are we? 1050 to 1110. What do we always say about this? It is the reversal macro. It is where you're looking for price to spool against profitable AM traders. What are the profitable AM traders? Short. Clearly. And let me actually do this. So short. So this is where you'd want it to do a retracement or a reversal. Okay. Do I have a unicorn setup? Yes. I don't know if there was SMT. So let me actually check this. I don't see any on the first bet. I do see some SMT on the high actually, but that doesn't matter because that SMT got invalidated when we formed the breaker block. So it wouldn't matter for your entry. And I'm not seeing any SMT on the lows, perhaps until later, of course, but no SMT. Okay, this makes it worse. Once again, just like this one. Do I only trade perfect setups? No, I also trade A setups. In this case, we formed the breaker block here. First overlapping PDRA. Now, is it this one? Ooh, it is this one. So you have an inversion fair value gap. And you know what? If you didn't spot that tiny inversion fair value gap here, well, you had a huge fair value gap below. That almost gives you the same entry. You probably have 2 ticks of a lower entry. If we use the 3 PDRA stop loss rule, well, here, if you saw that fair value gap, inversion fair value gap, sorry, you have inversion fair value gap. This is not yet a fair value gap. Order block, and then you have this swing low formed in the fair value gap. This gives me everything I need here. Simple as that. And if you did not see this inversion fair value gap, well, you would have entered on the next candle here. And here, let's actually do it a few ticks below. And you would have had inversion fair value gap, and order block for the same stop loss. So I'm going to use the more pessimistic entry of you did not see this inversion fair value gap. Because, I don't know, I think when you have a choice to make and you're reviewing with hindsight, always make the worst alternative. This is how I built this model. Was always looking at the worst case scenario, and that has done me well in everything I do. How do you choose your fair value gaps for entries? Sometimes you take the most recent one and sometimes not. I always take the most recent one. And it's sometimes hard to visualize, but pretty much what I'm looking for, well, it's not necessarily the most recent one, but it's the first one that it's going to trade back into it. So it's not, for example, we formed a breaker block and then, oh, this is the most recent fair value gap. I'm locked in on this one, and this is the only one I'm looking for entries. That would be the most recent when we formed a breaker block. No, I'm just looking for the first one that retraces into it. In this case, for example, this is a unicorn. This inversion fair value gap is a unicorn. And if we were to make another fair value gap here, it would be another unicorn. This is a unicorn below the breaker block. So how do I choose which one? Well, this is a unicorn after we formed the breaker block, of course. So how do I choose which one I'm going to take? Well, I take the first one that retraces into it. So in this case, my actual entry would be on the inversion fair value gap right here when we traded into it on this bar. But we had the option for worst entry, and this gap, like if you look at it quickly, you probably didn't see it. So this is me trying to be pessimistic and tell people, well, look, if you didn't see that one, you could have entered on this one right under, which is just 1 minute later. So the next candle over. And that's just me trying to take a worse entry, honestly. It's just because the entry is slightly lower. I want to give the worst possible scenario. If that makes any sense. Does it, Nico? Did I answer your question? If not, feel free to elaborate. Would be my pleasure. I'm moving the PA review tonight earlier, guys, by the way, because there's a hockey game that I want to be watching between Canada and the USA. So it's not because I have less time to do it. Awesome, Nico. Glad I could help. And this one would have been a hard one because there is absolutely no way that I'm taking profits before this. Why? Well, first of all, yes, you do have a lot of return in this case, and best case scenario would have been to just say like, hey, 2R, get me out, right? Take out half here, get broken even after, you made your loss back, and that's your loss if you took that first long, right? Going back over the fact that you had a bullish bias, for example. But for me, this is what confirms my trade idea. This is what confirms expansion higher. And that would have led to some pretty rough price action, just holding through this. Then finally you go away from here and then you go back to your break even. If we're being pessimistic, honestly, not even going that far. If we're being honest in this case, I'm not putting my stop break even during this. This, I'm just holding and I'm like, okay, we're going into lunch. Fuck it. I'm just holding my trade. It's either going to be a win or a loss, right? Looking at this take profit, of course. But then once we expand very aggressively higher here, there is absolutely no way in hell that I'm not mitigating my risk and placing my stop break even. So I could tell you guys, look at this beautiful Rise trading model and look how we went to go target this and look, oh, first premium in efficiency. It went exactly where it had to go for 5R. Sure, but there is no way in hell that I can convince myself that I would hold on to this trade. And if I did hold on to this trade without mitigating my risk, or at least taking profits here, like, I mean, it pretty much almost reached my objective. And then as soon as I see it break this low below here, it's just formed an important swing point inducing this. I don't want to be in this trade anymore. So whether we can discuss if this is profit or not and what are the best rules, for me, it's always better to mitigate your risk. And that's not just talking about one trade. It's talking about just my whole mentality with trading. I'm way better off going home with a break even where I could have made money than with a loss. Break even is, well, see, I wanted to say break even is a win. That's not what I believe. But a break even is a break even. It is less worse than a loss. So definitely something I can't get myself behind. So I could lie to you guys and tell you, wow, beautiful model. Take a picture of it, post it on Twitter, do some marketing, as I have done before, right? But this is not a trade that I would ever be successful in, right? So I'm not going to give you guys that. No bullshit here today, perhaps another day. And from this, as always, beautiful move in the morning. We've just been consolidating. Am I going to look for a PM trade? Fuck no. My charts are not even open here. I had a friend that was trading that. Yeah, I think he left this call. Yeah, he's no longer here. Julian. And he was trading the PM to try and pass, well, to actually pass his account. He just passed it today, one of his new funded accounts. And he kept trading the PM to try and pass his second account that he had. So definitely not something I would recommend because it is painful, but it is profitable. And there were some pretty nice trade setups, not necessarily rice models. Trading gets way easier when you just trade AM session and news days. Well, see, I'm glad I could influence you. And it's hard for me to tell this to people because if you trade every day, you're going to get more experience. And let's be honest, in these markets, you could get profitable just through experience. Just trade, be there every single day, lose enough money, and build the right habits, and you're going to end up profitable in these markets. That's actually my belief. So it's hard to tell people trade less, but that's what helped me. So I like to share what I do and how I came about this. So I'm glad to see you, Faraz, enjoying this, only trading the AM session 95% of the days and only trading days with news, except some very specific examples, right? But for me, definitely, that's definitely what helped me the most. So I would recommend it to other people, but I would tell them, find something you want. If you're focused on money and if your only goal is to get the most amount of money possible, trade every single day. If you love trading and if you're a scalper, you're better off trading every day. You have a wider pool of trades, right? You're going to have less variance. For me, I have a high variance model, but because I don't trade it often, but it is very high consistency. So it balances out. I've been profitable for 5 weeks in a row. Awesome. It's been great going on my second year ICT. Learned a lot here from you. I'm very glad to hear that, Faraz. Really, really do. Drop that in testimonials at some point. Not putting pressure on you. But it makes me very happy, right? Because I told you guys this before. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for these events. But I would do them regardless. And I actually started doing these. I would do video reviews of my days as a trader. I would review what happened during the day. And for me, writing it was cool, but I wanted to be able to come back and look at it and actually hear myself talking. So definitely something that I enjoy on that end. By the way, Faraz, thank you for your review for Rice Statistics. I hadn't had a chance to answer to it yet. Well, I didn't take the time to answer to it yet, let's be honest here. But I really do appreciate it, and we'll be writing a nice little comment to it. When would you say your model performed the best during the year? Oof. February is shit for me as a trader. The model performed great, right? It's just me as a trader. I hate February. I don't know why. And you know what? Let's be honest here. It's probably because it's my birthday and I lay low. I lose my grind in February because it's my birthday. I want to enjoy. Of course, I go out with my friends and I enjoy and I drink. That's not the thing. It's really just that I lay off the pedal. I take a moment and realize that I've gotten older and enjoy my my time here. So definitely a lot there. 2 days off alcohol to trade, huh? I agree. If you're gonna drink in the weekend, I recommend you do so on Friday so you have 2 days of detox. But I don't like to drink often. I love to go party and go with my friends. Truth is, if I was to do that every week, I wouldn't be where I am today. So you have to make sacrifices in life. Yeah, that's what I meant for us. I really like the review that you posted. That's why I'm plugging in Julius. It's because he wrote a review. Drink and trade, Slav style. Well, that's not my style on that end. And Joker, remind me tomorrow in chat. Well, I'll remind myself. I'll remember. But here, happy birthday in advance. Why not? I'm in the vibe now. Always a pleasure. Do you guys have any remaining questions, right? Because as I said, no PM trading for me, really just those AM. And for me, it was that short. And if you were going long, of course, you would have had one loss and the opportunity to make your money back and perhaps more, depending on how you manage that trade. Great job today. Appreciate you, Faraz. Appreciate that very much. We'll see each other anyways for a price action review tomorrow. Yes, Yes, Canada for the win on hockey. All right, guys. Last time they got beat up, so hopefully they don't get beat up tonight. You guys have a great night. All right, good luck trading tomorrow, and we'll see each other tomorrow for another price action review. Thank you, Nico. Appreciate you guys coming in here in numbers. Bye, guys.